In my 10 years as executive editor and now president of Success Unlimited magazine, I have probably been exposed to more books, articles, and speeches dealing with success than any other living American. After you read pieces and listen to speeches on this subject, or any subject for that matter, for a certain length of time, you begin to acquire a certain instinct about them, a radar that activates a bell when you come across something meaningful and worthwhile, and sets off a buzzer when you are reading or listening to tripe produced by someone who doesn't know what he or she is writing or talking about. I can assure you that the speech you are about to hear, delivered to the largest gathering of insurance people in North America, rang my bell, and I think it will ring yours if you are searching for some common sense techniques that not only explain how you can succeed, but also tell you why you've probably been failing in your search for a better life, both personally and in business. One of the definitions of secret in my dictionary is a method or art known only to the initiated or the few. On that basis, although I've been guilty myself of using the phrase, there are no secrets of success. Man has always known what to do in order to achieve his goals. His problem has been convincing himself that the necessary expenditure of time, energy, and discipline was worth the price. Usually, after he fails a few times, he finds it much easier to convince himself that success is not worth the effort, and he settles down to a life of mediocrity. Now, I don't know how you feel about all of this. If you're happy with your current income, if you're happy with your current position, if you are happy with your present way of life, then you have probably wasted your money on this cassette. But if you know you can do better, if you know that you're worth more than they're paying you, then listen carefully to what Bob Proctor has to say. And take my word for it, he knows what he's talking about. Bob has studied the habits of man and his struggle with success and happiness for many years. His seminars are usually sold out, and his training has helped some of our biggest corporate giants like Volkswagen, Metropolitan Life, and United States Steel. Testimonials, however, really shouldn't mean much to you. Anyone can get testimonials. What is important is that inside of you, there is a gnawing, burning desire to change your life for the better. Without that will to do better, you will not succeed. What comes after will? Faith. Faith that you can accomplish miracles if you believe you can. Remember Christ? So very often before he performed a cure that the world called miraculous, he would address the afflicted person and ask, "Do you believe I can do this?" Without that faith, without that belief, there are no miracles. Now settle back, pay attention, and listen to a master speaker show you how to change your life for the better, starting right now. Here's Bob Proctor.
Well, we've heard some pretty good ideas this morning. I worked with Red Motley last summer, and he said something that I was thinking of while I was sitting there. He said, none of these ideas are any good unless we take them out and use them. A lot of people will sit here, gather a lot of wonderful information, and go out and nothing really happens. Most speakers that you hear from, that I've heard from, and I've listened to a few hundred of them, I suppose, over the last 13 years, tell us what we should do. Your training programs that the company gives you tells you what you should do. We take a somewhat different approach. We work on why you don't do it. You know, when we asked, or when I believe it was Cleo asked, for the $1 Million members to stand, there's no reason why everyone in the whole place shouldn't have been able to stand. Now, some people will say, well, you're not in our business, you don't really understand that. No, but I'm in my business, and I understand it in our business. Now, we all know in your industry you have a high dropout ratio. You have a lot of people that are not in the $1 Million roundtable. I think in our business we have a higher dropout ratio. We have more people who don't even earn a living than I would care to think about. And there's one reason for it. They've never really fallen in love with the idea of doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, that's rather sad, but that's the way it is. We understand a lot of things about life, and I think there's a lot of things we don't understand about life. For 13 years now, I've studied one subject, and after 13 years, you began to gather a little bit of information if you just study one thing. And I believe that probably everyone in this room knows how to do many, many times better than what they're doing. We know that no one can tell us how much we could do. If we would let this little piece of chalk I got here represent an acorn, and I was to go and ask anyone in the room to tell me something about this acorn, I'd get a fair amount of information, I would imagine. And some of the answers I might get would go something like this: well, it's an acorn, and they'd be right. Someone else might say, inside that acorn is a giant oak tree. The whole business is inside that acorn. We've got the trunk, the roots, the bark, the branches. We've got the whole business right inside that acorn. If we split it open, we won't find it, but we know it's there. If we try and force it, we'll kill it. If we just keep it in our pocket, it is not going to develop. But if we create the right environment for that acorn, it will completely unfold according to a master plan. Now, we understand that on almost all realms of life except the human realm, and that's rather sad. So far as we know, we just get one trip. We've got one shot at this game we call life. Some people work at completely unfolding according to that master plan. Others completely ignore the situation. Now, we found that there's many, many things that we're all ignorant about. I don't know how to bake a pie. I'm ignorant when it comes to that area. I don't know how to build a building like this. I'm ignorant when it comes to that area, and in many different areas. And we all are in many areas. There's one area that none of us should be ignorant about, and that's about what makes us tick, what would cause us to unfold according to a master plan, so we could go out and do the job that we truly want to do. Now, if we don't know, we're not going to be able to do it. Plato gave us the answer many, many years ago. He said, the ignorant don't know they're ignorant. Or in the vernacular, they don't know they don't know. But we found there's not that much allowance for ignorance. Not knowing does not make any difference. They still don't cut it. Charlie and Cleo have brought you some pretty good ideas. Charlie's a funny guy. I worked with a couple of his friends before, Dr. Charles Jarvis and Senator Ed Murphy, and they're every bit as funny as he is. It's kind of hard to try and even compete in that area or work in that area where they're talking about. But we were working with J. Beecroft recently, and he brought up a cute little story I'd like to share with you. We're talking about teaching different ideas, and he tells a story about a missionary that went off over to Afghanistan. He's going over there, and he's going to teach all the natives how to speak English. And he's pretty excited about the whole deal. And they flew him back into a little backwoods town, and the local chief came out and met him and welcomed him, told him how happy he was to see him there. And he also told him he was the only one in the entire area that spoke English. No one else spoke English. And then he introduced him to Walu, his guide, and he told him that Walu was going to be the one that shows him around. He's going to take him up into all the villages and all over the place, and Walu was going to be his sidekick for his duration there in Afghanistan. So then they presented him with a canoe, and they told him this was his canoe. That was his mode of transportation there in Afghanistan. Now, he continued to say that there was no buses, no trains, planes, or anything like that, but there was all kinds of wonderful rivers, and Walu was just great with a canoe. So Walu takes the canoe over, places it in the drink, sort of steadies it while the missionary gets into it, and away they go. Now, the missionary thought, well, now, if I'm ever going to start with anybody, I might as well start with Walu. I'm going to spend all my time with him. So he sort of pats the side of the canoe, and he says, canoe, and Walu said, canoe. And he thought, God, this is marvelous. He just picked that up like that. And he goes along a little further, and he splashes the water, and he said, water. Walu said, water. He was just delighted with himself and with his new student. He went along a little further, and there's a flock of birds flying overhead, and he said, flamingos. And Walu said, flamingos. See, you're just ecstatic. Things were going so good. And then Walu reached over and tapped him on the shoulder, and he points to the shore, and here's a fellow over there. He's got a pretty good hold on the girl, and the missionary didn't know what to say, so he just sort of evaded the whole situation. But Walu didn't settle for this. He reaches over and he taps him on the shoulder again, and he points to the shore. And the missionary just says, first thing come to his mind. He said, riding bicycle. With this, Walu takes out his blowgun and boom! Poor guy went right to the ground. Riding Walu's bicycle. Thank you. You're a great audience. I think I'll take you with me. You know, I heard Charlie here this morning telling the story about the little boy with the Playboy magazine. Some of you might have heard this, some of you might not. But Bill Gove tells the story about the salesman. He said, you know, salesmen are awful liars. Now, you know that, and I know that. I'm in the same business you're in. You see, we'll blame everything under the sun but ourselves if the sale doesn't go right. We blame the prospect, we'll blame the territory, we'll blame the policy, the sales manager, the shipping department, anything under the sun, but very rarely will we really blame ourselves. Now, you know, everyone's a salesman, so he must have been talking about everyone. Robert Louis Stevenson one time said that everyone's a salesman. We're selling an idea, product, or a service. If any of the new fellows think they can't sell because they're not salesmen, you might want to really study the meaning of the word. Salesmanship means to have an idea accepted, adopted, or approved. There isn't an individual in this room that has not been working since they first took breath at having their ideas accepted, adopted, or approved. So everyone's a salesman. He was taking in everyone. He said, ask the average person why they buy Playboy magazine. He says, you'll never get a straight answer. He says, they'll lie to you every time. He says, there's good young writers, there's excellent articles, and they go on and on and on. But he said he met a fellow one day, and it was rather refreshing. He told him the truth why he bought Playboy. You know, he said he liked to look at colored pictures of beautiful places that he knew he was never going to visit. You know, somewhere right now, today, in many, many places, all across this continent, there's an insurance salesman calling on a prospect right now. That's not their hand on the door, that's their heart. They're scared stiff. Their hands are soaking wet. They'll walk up to their prospect like this. Now, some will say, well, they wouldn't actually do that. I've never seen that done. I don't mean physically, I mean mentally. They're crawling into the situation. They are scared stiff. The prospect is dangerously underinsured. The prospect is married and has a family, and they're in dire need of some protection. The insurance agent just might be as underinsured as the prospect. At any rate, he's calling on them ill-equipped to ever sell an idea. And the first time the prospect says no, that's his cue to hit the exit, and he's gone. He's out the door. And that man is left dangerously underinsured. Less than 1 month ago, my best friend dropped dead here in this city. I was talking to his wife 2 days ago. She's out filling in applications for a job. Not because she wants to, because she has to. He had $12,000 worth of insurance. Now, someone might say, how could he be so stupid? That was an area that he was ignorant in. Someone didn't do their job. They sold him a policy, but not the proper one. They never gave him the right coverage. Now, we all know that the average person is dangerously underinsured. Not the average person. A high majority of all people are dangerously underinsured. A truck driver that's earning $10,000 a year today must have $50,000 to $100,000 to be properly protected if he wants to leave his family in a financial position should he be taken out of the picture. Not many of them own it. Let's think of it this way for a second. That young fellow that we were talking about, that's hands are sweating, he's scared stiff, that's calling on the prospect right now, somewhere, today, he has been well trained. I've worked with a few hundred companies in I don't know how many cities in North America. I have yet to find a company that has better training programs than the insurance industry has. You have spent millions of dollars devising some of the finest training programs available today. That man's well trained. He knows what to do, but he's not doing it. He doesn't even know why he's not doing it. He's not doing it, I believe, because he doesn't understand himself. He doesn't know what makes him tick. Think of this for just a second. Let's assume for a moment that the sand in the top of this hourglass represents your life, yours and mine. One thing is certain. That sand is not going to stop running through that hourglass. Even as we sit here, some of it's ticking away. We don't know when it's going to run dry. We don't know that. We can continue from the day of this Congress on doing the way we've been doing. There will be some people that are here today that will not return here next year. They will have left the industry. They will not be able to earn a living in it. They could earn a fortune in it, but they're not going to do it. They won't be here next year. There will be some people who will return, and their production will change. It'll be up a little or down a little. There will be other people return who will have doubled, tripled, or quadrupled their business. But there's no one here who could not return and double, triple, or quadruple their business in the coming year. We've got this running out right now. We've got to make a decision, and we make the decision now. Not tomorrow, not later tonight, right now, if we're ever going to make it. It's not that you don't have the talent and that you don't have the ability. That's a cop-out that I'm way too tired of hearing when I talk to people. When I first went into this business, I thought I had used Nightingale's material for 7 or 8 years, and I thought, gee, this is just going to be wonderful. I can run out and I can sell this to all the people that need it. Boy, did I ever get a slap in the mouth. They didn't even know what I was talking about. Then I called on a man who's probably here today. I don't believe I made a sale that day, but he sure made one. Boy, he taught me something that has just, I don't know what it's been worth to me since I've come into the business 4 or 5 years ago. His name was Tony Laws. Most of you probably know Tony. I walked into his office, he opened a closet door, and I thought he had just bought Nightingale's warehouse out. He had it stacked full of material. Then he called me around to the other side of his desk and he said, Bob, look at this. And he opened the drawer and there was rows of it. He says, I'm a real sucker when it comes to this stuff. Now I can remember saying to him, yeah, Tony, so am I, but it's really nice, isn't it? Now I understand that Tony's probably one of the top agents in this area. He made a decision at one time to change something in his life. Everything is in a constant evolution of change. Nothing remains constant. The only thing that's permanent is change. I believe until we understand ourselves, what makes us tick, we'll never really get off the launching pad. The real pros in your industry, in ours, or in any other industry automatically do the right thing. 40 years ago, right around the time I was born, a man in your industry made a talk over on the east coast of the United States. It was probably one of the finest talks that was ever made. I've studied it many, many months. For the last few years I've studied it. His name was Albert E. N. Gray. He gave us the answer. He was searching for the common denominator of success in your business. I believe he was the secretary to Prudential Insurance Company at that time, and he found it. He said it's in forming the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. If you don't have a copy of that talk, I'd suggest you write to Prudential and get one. They'll give you one. I know that. It's excellent. We operate mostly by habit. Unconsciously, we're doing things every day. Well, the time is running away. Our sales will not be left up to chance or luck. Our sales, like everything else in the entire universe, operates by law, not by luck. We wouldn't have to think to walk off here. We just wouldn't walk off. If we drop that chalk, we know it's going to go down. Anything heavier than air will always be attracted towards the center of the universe. We understand that. That was programmed into our mind when we were little gaffers. We weren't born with that knowledge. We were deliberately taught that by our parents. Don't get up there, you're going to fall. And over and over and over. They gave us the repetition of that idea, and now we automatically live in accordance with it. We walk to the edge of the building, it'll never enter our mind to walk off. We automatically turn around and come back or go around. That's a law. Well, there's other laws. Here's a law here that Emerson said was the law of laws. He said for every action there's an equal reaction in the opposite direction. Whatever we put out, that's the only thing that can come back and visit upon us. I really feel sorry for the salesman that thinks he can corner someone, he can con them or fast talk them and close them in a sale. He's deluding himself. He may do it a few times, but he'll never be one of the real stars in your business or in ours, because he's not putting the right thing out, and therefore he'll never get it back. It's a funny thing. We take these little balls, we drop 2. We don't knock the 3 of them out. We get 2 back. And out of the 5, the law decrees if we drop 3, we'll get 3 back. And so on. And that's the way it works. Our thoughts, feelings, and actions, that's our attitude. It's everything about us. And the attitude that we express is the only thing that can come back and visit upon us. We've had people go through the seminars, and it's almost like a transformation in them. Just a few simple ideas, and it pulls a lot of the things together they've studied for years, and they're different people. We don't have to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in commerce and finance to realize that 10 $100,000 policies is $1 million. A person with $100,000 insurance today has proper coverage. If they haven't got it. I have a lot of people in your business tell me, but some of them can't afford it. People afford anything they want. The clothes you've got on you don't need. You've got other clothes at home. You bought them because you want them. Motley said we should forget needs and concentrate on wants. We're want creators, salesmen are. And when we make them want what we've got, they'll move mountains to get it. If they can't afford it, we might help them and show them how to earn a little more money so that they can afford it. They may not have any money in their pocket. They may have none in the bank. But I'll guarantee if they go out and find all the tires slashed on their car, they'll put tires on their car. They find the money to get the things they want. Now, everybody wants to leave their family properly protected. We know that. They may not be consciously aware of it. They may not sit and think about it all the time. That's our business. We bring it to their attention. You know, I read something here by Norman Vincent Peale that I think is just absolutely beautiful. He defines salesmanship a little different. He says, what is salesmanship? He said, it is a process by which an individual gets another individual to walk a road of agreement with them. I don't think it's too difficult to get an individual to walk a road of agreement with us when it comes to the area of protecting their family. But if we believe we can tell a person one thing and think another thing and communicate a picture properly to them, we're kidding ourselves. And sometimes we actually do trick ourselves. Unconsciously, we are really working these laws against ourselves. We will tell the person we're sincerely interested in helping them. We explain it verbally and through writing. And we're thinking, I sure hope I make this sale so I can get the commission. He doesn't want to make us any richer than we already are. He does want the help that we're talking about. Now, we can control this, and we can get into such a way, our mind working in such a way, that we automatically do things the right way. Like we automatically live in accordance with this law that we're talking about. I'm going to just very quickly run through a very basic idea. Could be a very complicated idea. We're going to simplify it. Keep this thought in mind. Right now, the sand's still running. It never stops. If we want to change, Charlie was talking here earlier this morning, we should grow every day. A man by the name of Newman once said, in another and better world, things might be different. But in this world, to grow is to change. And to change often is to grow much. There's only one thing we can change, and that's the ideas we hold in here. Hubbard, the American humorist, once said something that I think is worth thinking about for the rest of your life. He said, it ain't what people don't know that hurts them, it's what they know that ain't so that hurts them. It's what we know that ain't so that hurts us. Some people know that because I've never gone out and really sold anything before, I'm not a salesman, so that's why I'm not going to make it. That just ain't so. Some people know that one person has more in them, more potential than another person. That just ain't so. The person that believes that has never really studied people. There's only 2 points of reference we can go to when we're talking about people. Nowhere else. If we want to find out how to do better, we're going to have to understand ourselves a little better. Inscribed over the Ark of Apollo at Delphi are 2 words. It says, know thyself. Very rarely does a person ever really get to know themselves. There's only 2 points of reference we can go to if we want to find out something about ourselves. I was quite pleased to hear Charlie and Cleo talking about God here this morning. A lot of people sort of push that under the rug these days. Boy, they're looking in the wrong area. Because that's one area is theology. Can't ignore it. The other area is science. If we just look at one area, then we can't invoke the law of relativity. We've got nothing to compare it to. Theology is one area. There's only 6 basic religions in the entire world. I've done a lot of work in California, and I think there's something like 4,000 in California, but there's just 6 basic religions. We have Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, Confucianism, and Christianity. Let me tell you where the problem lies. If you go up and ask a person if they're a Christian, they'll say, yeah, I'm a Christian. You've got to define that. Call ourselves Christians after Christ's name. One person. So then you have to define it. You might want to say, well, what kind of a Christian? You'll say, well, I'm a Baptist. Well, then you've got to define that again. You say, what kind of a Baptist? And this is the way it breaks off. Now, is that good? Sure, it's good. Is it bad? Sure, it's bad. Everything in the universe is both bad and good. Nothing's all bad and nothing's all good. If you're looking for what's bad in your business, you don't have to look very far. There's all kinds of things that are bad in your business. And that doesn't take a whole lot of intelligence, though. It doesn't take much understanding. It doesn't take much Christianity. It doesn't take too much of anything to find out what's wrong with anything. But boy, it takes a respectable amount of intelligence and a respectable amount of understanding to find out what's right with something. We can find what's wrong with a person, a situation, a circumstance, a condition, or environment in seconds. And whenever that's what you're focused on, what's wrong, you'll get lots of help. There'll be all kinds of people saying, yeah, I'll tell you what else is wrong.